Good morning, everybody. We're going to give it another couple of minutes for people to get logged in, and we'll get started on our webinar shortly. Okay, we're going to give it another 20 seconds and we'll get ready to go. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. And just so you know, we do have a chat feature available. If you are questioning anything as we're going through this, feel free to pop in a Q&A or a chat, and I'll be sure to get those answered as we move through our slides. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm super excited to be here with you to cover some really exciting new automotive employment data that we're launching next week at Hireology. So before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Tiffany, and I'm the Director of Automotive Partnerships here at Hireology. I've been at Hireology for about 2 years now, working with our biggest auto customers. And prior to starting here at Hireology, I spent about 8.5 years working at Ford Motor Company in Chicago. Again, during that time, working with dealerships as well. So all in all, I've got about 10 years of experience working in automotive. So again, super excited to be able to share some of this relevant information with you all in automotive today. So my goal for this webinar is to help you answer these questions as we cover the data. Number one, are you facing the same challenges as your peers when it comes to hiring and retention? Where are your peers sourcing their top candidates from in hard to fill roles like technicians? What are your peers' goals as it relates to recruiting and hiring in the year ahead? And finally, what opportunities do you have to stand out and capture your fair share of today's automotive job seekers? So a little bit about the research. In December of 2023, we surveyed about 120 HR employees at dealerships across the US. Some of the survey questions that we touched on revolved around the following themes. So we've got 2024 challenges that they expected, average hiring speed, top channels for applicants and hires, and also any hiring process bottlenecks. So let's dig in a little bit on the data. The first theme of data that I want to touch on is overall dealership hiring challenges. We'll go through what dealerships are struggling with as it relates to hiring and retention, as well as our advice for overcoming these challenges. So overall, despite a cooling job market, we're finding that dealerships by and large are still finding the hiring climate to be incredibly challenging. 89% of our respondents said that hiring at their dealership is still somewhat or extremely challenging. Well, 46% said that they feel hiring is even more challenging than it was a year ago. Plus, hiring is so challenging that about 2/3 of these folks have actually hired somebody who wasn't even a fit just to get the role filled. And finally, 64% are concerned about the lack of technicians graduating from tech schools. And when you think about the youngest generation of workers in the workforce, these concerns make sense. Younger workers today are significantly less likely to be attracted to jobs in the retail automotive industry, and fewer are graduating from tech schools. As baby boomers retire from the industry in droves, replacing these workers is a top-of-mind challenge for dealerships. So where do the greatest challenges lie when it comes to hiring at dealerships? Dealers report that service technicians are the most difficult role to fill by far. And of course, given what we're seeing with declining interest among younger workers combined with retiring baby boomers, the result of this question makes a lot of sense. Simply put, there are just fewer people out there with the skills or the interest in gaining those skills to meet demand. And demand for these types of roles is always going to remain steady. People are always going to need to have their cars serviced, especially as people hang on to their older cars as new car prices remain high. And despite technician roles being difficult to fill, they're actually not driving the highest turnover. According to the survey, turnover occurs most often among sales associates. The reason behind this is probably attributed to the nature of the roles. Sales in retail automotive is widely considered to be incredibly competitive, and people with sales experience can transfer those skills to really any industry. It doesn't have to just be automotive. And when we asked respondents to dig deeper into why they find hiring so challenging, applicant quality topped the list, meaning they're struggling to attract job seekers with the right skills for their open roles. In years past, when we've conducted this study, we've typically found that applicant volume tops the list, And this shift from a volume problem to a skills-based problem might be due to the hiring market cooling. And dealers are now seeing more applicants, but they're lacking the complex skills required for today's service technician roles. So our advice, number one, start by building the foundation with a great employer brand. The number one way you can stand out during a time of high competition and low talent supply is with a great employer brand. This is especially important as a younger generation with a negative perception of the industry enters the workforce. Before you make any other changes to your recruitment strategy, it is critical that you spend some time revisiting your employer branding messaging and materials. This might mean something like drafting new positioning about what makes your dealership stand out, like maybe you're offering exceptional work-life balance, or it might mean completely redesigning the look and feel of your career sites and any other branding materials that you have. Second piece of advice, foster relationships with local schools. There is no doubt that the youngest generation of today's workforce is going to be critical to help dealerships fill important revenue-driving roles. But as noted above, many of today's younger workers do not view the auto industry favorably. So once you've revamped your employer brand, you can start taking your messaging directly to the next generation of workers at high schools, tech schools, and four-year colleges. Digital channels for recruitment are always important, but almost nothing beats that face-to-face conversation when it comes to swaying opinions. Offer to speak to groups of students enrolled in relevant programs, or create on-site job shadow programs or other learning opportunities, or even think about donating scholarships. Next, prioritize referrals. Chances are your high-performing technicians know people who are just like them. Why not try and leverage this? Of course, most dealerships have an employee referral program in place, but the key is finding ways to get more out of it. Make it a requirement for new technician hires to list people they know from previous roles or training programs and nurture these contacts over time. Or think about consistently reaching out to your service staff via text, reminding them of open roles as well as bonuses that you're offering. At times of higher demand, consider raising bonus payouts amount as well. Text, and don't forget about it. Once you have great candidates interested in your open roles, you need to do everything you can to keep them engaged and combat the ongoing no-show problem. Texting is one of the best ways you can ensure that top candidates remain interested in your dealership. Texting can also be used to not only move the hiring process forward, like with scheduling interviews or kicking off onboarding, but it can also be a great tool for simply ensuring top candidates know what they're getting when they work for you. So use text to remind great candidates of your benefits, your competitive pay, growth opportunities, and more as well. And finally, create an employee-friendly onboarding program. Study after study shows that one of the biggest drivers of retention is great onboarding. When is the last time that you've revisited your onboarding program? Your program should offer digital options for new hire paperwork, and definitely don't make people come in on their first day and fill out forms. And think about including a documented week one plan for your new hires that truly lays the groundwork for long-term success and fulfillment. This includes things like relationship building as well as hosting extensive training. You want to make sure that they're really comfortable in those first few days and weeks. So next, I want to touch on what we're seeing from dealerships when it comes to benefits offered and overall job design. Overall, dealerships are offering a good range of benefits across the board, with training and mentorship programs, great workplace culture, and career pathways topping the list. And when we asked job seekers what benefits they value the most outside of pay earlier this year in our applicant study, these same benefits top the list as well. So in other words, if you're part of the percentage of dealers not offering these benefits, you're likely missing out on top talent that's choosing to apply to your competitors due to the benefits that they're offering. This data should really come as no surprise, but when we ask dealers how much they've increased wages in order to attract top talent, more than 70% say they've increased, with 35% noting that they've increased by more than 10%. While increasing wages over the past year has, of course, been necessary given inflation with a continued talent shortage, it's worth noting that wage wars are not the only way to win the continued automotive talent shortage. In fact, according to our applicant survey, 90% of job seekers in the auto sector are willing to take lower paying jobs in exchange for the right benefits. So if you go back to the previous slide, the way to win without constantly raising compensation is to offer the right package of benefits. And of course, it's critical that you market those benefits as well, which I'll get into in a few slides from here. So we also found that just over half of dealerships have a formal DEI program in place. If you're part of the 45% that does not focus on DEI, this is also likely hurting your ability to maximize quality candidates. Study after study shows that job seekers today, especially younger job seekers, want to work in diverse environments that reflect the world and their communities, as well as the environments that are inclusive. On top of that, diverse and inclusive workplaces are proven to drive better business outcomes due to people feeling supported and empowered to do their best work. DEI really is just table stakes now, and it's something that you can have an impact on your ability to recruit and retain talent. So let's take a look at some advice when it comes to job design. Number one, audit your benefits. Job seekers today are looking for more than just a paycheck. They want to feel like they can grow with their employers and that they're making a difference. And based on the survey, we know that many dealerships are taking the steps necessary to offer these benefits. Take some time to audit what you offer and identify opportunities for benefits you can afford to add to ensure that you're remaining competitive. The good news is that you likely already offer many of the perks job seekers are looking for, like your great workplace culture or fulfilling work. Now, you just need to find a way to make it clear in your employment branding messaging. Next, think about rewriting your job descriptions. Once you have a grasp of what you can offer job seekers and how you want to message those offerings, it's important to clearly state it in your job descriptions. Gone are the days of simply stating what the job entails along with the requirements. Your job description should resemble an ad for a product or a service. Sell what job seekers get out of working for you and lead with things like key perks for career growth, flexibility, and things like that. Then dive into requirements and day-to-day duties for the role from there. And finally, update your career site. With updated job descriptions in hand, take the same approach with your career site. Think of it like your homepage of your dealership's customer-facing website. What do you offer that job seekers want? What makes you different from the dealership down the street or from Amazon? Use your career site to shout these selling points from the rooftop. Okay, next segment of data we're going to dig into is data around talent sourcing. So when we ask dealers to select all of the sourcing channels that they use, it's clear that most dealers are casting a wide net and using a good mix of different sources to reach top talent, including social media, employee referral programs, job boards, and relationships with local schools. What this tells us is that a multi-channel sourcing strategy is the norm in automotive, and it's something that you absolutely need to do in order to remain competitive in this sector. So we know that dealers are using a good mix of sources, but which sources are actually performing the best? When we ask dealers which source drives the highest volume of candidates, paid job boards top the list by a long shot. Organic job boards followed by around 12 percentage points less. But when we ask dealers where they are getting the highest quality of applicants, we did see a bit of a shift. While paid job boards still top the list, referral programs actually shot up to second place, nearly tied with paid job boards. What this tells us is that there is a quality versus quantity situation at play. If you want to drive sheer volume of candidates, job boards is absolutely your best bet. But if you're looking to maximize quality and not necessarily quantity, you may want to prioritize both referrals and job boards. But despite referral programs being a top driver of quality candidates, most dealers aren't doing everything they can to get the most out of these programs. Dealers are by and large still relying on word of mouth to promote their employee referral programs, and only about a quarter use text messaging to promote the program. Slightly more are using email at only 21%, slightly more are using email, and only 21% are actually happy with the participation levels that they're seeing. So why is this an issue? Well, because if you think about it, your workforce in their day-to-day jobs, they're not necessarily incentivized to participate in your program. If you're rarely communicating your program with your staff and failing to consistently and frequently promote roles you're looking to fill and the bonus payouts you're offering, people are just not going to participate. You need to think about it like a marketing campaign for your dealership. You want to reach your team on the channels that they're using, which you know is a smartphone, with the right message to drive participation. So let's dig into some of the advice I have around referral programs. Number one, make sure to track. If you are like most dealerships, you're probably using a wide range of channels to source applicants. But do you actually know which channels provide the best ROI? Start tracking metrics like applicants by source and hires by source to paint a clearer picture of which sources drive the most impact. From there, you can develop a plan for adjustments you can make to optimize your time and your resources. Second, modernize your employee referral program. We know that employee referral programs are a great source of quality talent for dealerships today, but the most part, dealerships are relying on outdated tools and strategies for managing these programs. This is limiting the overall potential of the program. And it's time to ditch the spreadsheets and the inconsistent promotion tactics and get intentional about your program. Boost participation and therefore your quality candidates by sending regular text campaigns to your team, reminding them about the open roles and those bonus payout amounts. And invest in a tool that allows you to execute all of this without ever leaving your applicant tracking system. Third, leverage your existing talent database. Do you ever wish that you could bring back a former employee or maybe hire a candidate that you interviewed for in a role last year? Well, you can, and leveraging relationships you've built over time can actually be a really lucrative strategy for filling open roles. Start by getting your database in order by centralizing all former employees, former applicants, candidates, and former referrals. Then start nurturing these groups through regular campaign messaging. Of course, getting this right is a massive undertaking, so consider recruitment platforms that facilitate advanced database management and communication and automation. Finally, think about sponsoring your jobs on Indeed. Because so many dealerships are using Indeed, the site can become incredibly competitive. If you're not finding the results you're looking for with organic listings only, consider sponsoring your most important roles. On average, Indeed sponsored jobs result in 55% more applicants than non-sponsored jobs and are 4.5 times more likely to result in a hire than a non-sponsored job. So next, I want to touch on the overall hiring process. What happens when you get good candidates on board? How fast are other dealerships moving, and what's holding them back? Each year when we conduct this survey, we ask employers about ghosting or no-shows, which is when a candidate drops out of the hiring process without warning or explanation. And each year we get pretty wild stats like this one. It's clear that this has become a major problem in the post-pandemic auto industry, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. When we surveyed applicants earlier this year, we found why they ghosted or no-show an interview, and most respondents said that they ghost when employers don't communicate with them frequently enough. The good news about this answer is that this is absolutely something that is in your control as an employer, which we'll dig into in a few minutes when I get to my process and my speed advice. Next, we asked dealerships how fast they're responding to initial applicants when they apply. 21% said that they typically respond same day, while another 43% respond within 1 to 2 days. Combine this with what we know about applicants. 61% accept the first offer they receive in their job search. And all of a sudden, this tells us that if you're not able to connect with an applicant within 48 hours of applying, you're likely going to lose them to your competitor. Same story when it comes to the overall speed to hire. 17% said that they're able to hire in less than 1 week on average, with another 41% reporting that it takes them less than 2 weeks. Again, given what we know about applicants and that they're typically taking the first offer that they receive, you need to run a hiring process that takes less than 2 weeks, or you're going to be missing out on some of the best talent in the market. So what's holding dealers back from moving faster? When we asked respondents to rank their top bottlenecks, collecting paperwork topped the list, followed by keeping track of candidates, scheduling interviews, and reviewing new applicants. All of these are extremely cumbersome manual tasks, so it's absolutely understandable that these steps are holding dealers back. And the good news is that there's a lot of tech out there built to help you overcome these bottlenecks. And let's talk about that a little bit here with the advice. When it comes to moving slow processes forward and manual bottlenecks, here's what we typically advise dealerships. Track process related hiring metrics and adjust accordingly. To remain competitive in today's hiring market, you need to move fast on great candidates. But much like with sourcing, it's difficult to improve time to hire without knowing what's slowing you down. Start tracking hiring speed and process adherence across locations to identify roadblocks. Is interview scheduling slowing you down, or is it the background check stage? And once you find that out, make the necessary adjustments to your processes and tech stack based on what you find. Number 2, embrace automation. No matter how many HR employees you have on staff, human beings can only process so much information at a time. These human limitations will prevent you from moving faster in your hiring process at a certain point. That's where automations can come into play. We know HR teams are often bogged down by the time it takes to review applicants, schedule interviews, and manage your background check process. Why not let automation streamline some of these tasks for you? Many tools out there, including Hireology, offer everything you need to drastically reduce the time spent on these tasks, allowing you to move and hire faster and focus on more important work. Finally, adopt a modern applicant tracking system. Modernizing and centralizing all of your hiring steps can also make a big difference when it comes to reducing time to hire. For example, the time it takes to manually switch from your email account back to your hiring platform to communicate with candidates and then to your internal teams can add days to your process. Look for platforms that offer everything you need, from distributing jobs to making an offer, all in one central location. And finally, let's spend some time looking at one of the hottest topics of the year, which is AI. AI absolutely has the potential to revolutionize hiring for the better, but most employers, and not just dealers, rightfully have concerns about it. But I think it's critical that dealers spend more time understanding AI, because the dealers that do, they are going to have a more forward-thinking mindset, will be the ones to win for years ahead. So currently, only about a third of dealers are using AI in any capacity in their recruitment process, which makes sense, as the idea of using AI in recruitment is still fairly new, and it takes time for organizations, especially large ones, to adopt new tools and technologies. But 63% say they feel somewhat or very comfortable with the idea of using it, which tells us that the concept of AI has become mainstream enough that it doesn't scare people away quite as much as it used to. However, when asked where they see AI playing a role in the hiring process, most said that they didn't know, with about a quarter reporting that they feel AI could help them with writing job descriptions, and 22% said identifying top candidates. Overall, I think that what these last 3 slides tells us is that dealers are curious about AI and open to the concept of using it to make applying to their jobs easier, but most don't really understand how it could work in a practical sense. And finally, it's tough to bring up AI in recruitment without addressing very valid concerns about bias. When asked, about 44% said that they feel concerned about biases that might potentially arise with AI in their recruitment space. Recruiting in HR is a highly personal yet complex field where the right answers and decisions are almost never clear-cut. It is natural to have some concerns and reservations about adding AI to the mix. And while AI has the potential to complete tasks in a human-like manner, it will always lack the intuition and the nuanced perspectives that human beings bring to the table. AI tools only know the historical information that you've provided, but human beings can contextualize a person's potential beyond those data points. Without a human touch, you cannot guarantee that the best decision will be made for the unique needs of your team. Many times, the best candidate isn't the one with the best resume. So what's our advice for dealers who are curious about AI but not quite sure where to start, or maybe are held back by any concerns on bias? Number 1, experiment with public AI resources. the data shows that dealerships are cautious yet curious about AI. The good news is that you can experiment with AI without making massive investments by leveraging free resources like ChatGPT. You could use these types of tools to draft candidate emails that you can revise and reuse through your hiring process, or you could experiment with prompting it to write job descriptions. Whatever you choose to try, the key is getting yourself familiar and comfortable with the technology. Second, invest in forward-thinking HR technology. If you're interested in getting more in depth with AI, many applicant tracking systems and recruitment software providers are beginning to investigate AI into their platforms. Look for solutions that offer tools like automated communication, AI-based interview scheduling, and more. Software providers are already offering AI in these ways, will be the leaders as AI becomes more commonplace down the line. Third, get your data in order. AI has the potential to revolutionize hiring for the future. But for AI to be effective, it needs to be trained on complete and accurate data. That means that every applicant and candidate in your talent database must have a complete profile. Every rejection, interview, or hire is logged in the system with as much information as possible. With the clean database, you'll be able to leverage time-saving tools like candidate recommendation engines, job description writers, and more things to come down the line. And finally, use AI for efficiency and not decision-making. Concerns around biases and discriminations are also critical to consider. AI-driven hiring processes depend on the quality of data used to train the algorithms. Biases present in historical data could be made worse by AI, leading to unintentional discriminatory outcomes. To ensure fairness and transparency, a human level of involvement is and always will be essential. While you can conduct data audits and work to improve your algorithm, it will never be advised to completely leave the final decision around hiring up to AI models entirely. Simply put, AI should be used to empower your team to work smarter and not automate decision-making. And that's a summary of what I have for you on our recent study. Like I mentioned earlier, if you like what you saw here with this data, our team is putting it all together in a report for anyone who is interested in accessing that. And our scheduled release date is February 5th. So be on the lookout for an email from our marketing team that day, or you can also visit our website on the 5th to grab it as well. And in the meantime, we'll be sending out a recording of today's webinar in case you wanted to reference any of the data before the report is live. And finally, I'm sure you are all aware that NADA 2024 is right around the corner, and as always, Hierology will be there. I wanted to provide some information about where we'll be and what you can expect at our booth as well. One thing that I'm really excited about is our race car simulator, which is exactly what it sounds like. So stop by and give it a shot if you have one. And if you have one of the fastest times of the week, we'll enter you into a drawing to win a new iPhone. And you can scan this QR code here, or you can go to our website to find information there. And I would love to see you there if you are going to be in attendance. And with that, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next webinar.